No one had ever heard of the Atchafalaya at that time, and we could go for weeks and not see another person. We built our own house on the water with a hammer, a borrowed ladder, and a handsaw. We stayed there almost 10 years. Our lives piqued the interest of strangers from all over the world who read about our simple home and wondered how we survived out there.
This program is brought to you by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and by viewers like you.
Atchafalaya. It's the name the Choctaw gave this meandering Louisiana river almost 300 years ago. It snakes through more than 1 million acres of America's largest and most fertile river basin. Time is meaningless here, the passage of life fleeting. In all my years here, in the spring of my life, I hardly left a mark on this wild landscape. But this place left its mark on me and changed my life forever. If you can see the end of the road, I think I felt, why bother going down it? We only have one time we can go through life. And my fear was that I would not live. Getting to the end of the road in the old folks' home, sitting in the rocking chair, and wondering what would have happened if. I got this message that said, "Did you know this is on newsstands?" And I opened it up and had no idea right at first what I was looking at. I nearly fell out of my chair. An email tells me this image is being published in a National Geographic collection of its 100 best pictures unpublished. It's one of the hundreds, perhaps thousands, snapped by my friend C.C. Lockwood during his many visits to our home in the Atchafalaya Basin in the 1970s. The first thing I did recognize was the light. And I thought, I haven't seen light like this since 30 years ago in the swamp. And then I recognized the bed and the mosquito netting, and there was something about those two faces that I couldn't look at them. It was too personal, because it wasn't my life anymore. So therefore, did it mean that wasn't me? The next thing I noticed was her skin. Her skin was so beautiful and smooth and tan, and I wanted to tell her, "Honey, wear sunscreen." If she could see our face today, maybe she would have listened. She used to think I was fat, and here I am, older, grayer, rounder, and I'm a lot happier in this body than she was. But she wouldn't believe me if I could tell her. As with the sunscreen, she'll just have to find out for herself. I was the first person in my mother's side of the family to even go to college, and I'd worked my way through college. It seemed sort of like a waste at that point that I would go to the woods, but it was still that I just wanted to learn. It was 1972, and I was just finishing up my master's degree in speech. I was 24 at the time, and the world just didn't seem like a welcome place.
Blunder in Vietnam.
The shooting started very suddenly.
The people of Louisiana aren't going to do it.
We can no longer foul our air without regard for the earth.
I grew up north of Baton Rouge, and my mother's family was from Bayou Chene. The people who settled in Bayou Chene were people of a frontier spirit. Land was very cheap out there. It was just wilderness. And even if you couldn't afford any land at all, you could still tie a houseboat up. I learned about Bayou Chene early in my life from my Grandma Josephine. Mama Josephine was born on Bayou Chene right around the turn of the century, and from the way she talked about Bayou Chene, It was so perfect that whenever Sunday school teachers would talk about heaven, that's what I would picture. This little community held together by bayous and little footpaths, but no roads coming in or out of it because it was in the middle of the swamp. I remember her saying how vegetables and fruit would grow so easily, and I did grow up with this having a mythical presence in my life, the Mother Earth that we all sprang from. And as I got older, I began to realize it was a very small part of not the universe, but even of Louisiana, and that other people didn't know about it, and that it didn't even really exist anymore. It was just land out there, that there were no more people. Most of their families moved to the high ground outside the levees after the Great Mississippi River flood of 1927. The Corps of Engineers flood control projects that followed turned the basin into a massive spillway. My mother's generation was a bridge between the generations that had lived in the swamp and the future. So they were all raised on the levee. And they just assumed that our family would keep moving away from the swamp. But then my old childhood friend Calvin invited me out in the basin, and it changed my life forever. I don't remember when I first met Calvin. All through my childhood, during the summers and holidays, we'd sit on Mama Josephine's porch in the swing and visit, and he would tell me about the basin, but I never did go over the levee. I never did see it. He had moved a house back into the swamp, the house that his parents had lived in right when I was getting out of graduate school. And he was telling me about how beautiful it was where he moved the house, and I just wanted to see it. And once I saw it and went that first time, I don't remember there being a conscious decision. I just kept going. I loved the smell of the water and the dense green growth and the deep black soil. It was a beautiful place to live in that old house. And when we lived on the bank, I could see staying there forever. And then the flood of 1973 went over the house in February. Just the top of the roof was showing. And we had to leave, and there was nowhere for us as a pair to go. Until that moment, he and I both had said, why would people ever leave this for civilization? And that at that moment we knew. And then just very quietly, Calvin said, what do you think about a houseboat? I said, not much. And he said, a big house on a big barge with lots of windows, and we'll even have a fireplace. It'll be better than this house. And I thought, well, why not? If he thinks we can do it, maybe we can, and what have we got to lose? And so we just put out the word to everyone that we knew that we were looking for a barge to buy, that we were looking for an old house to tear down so that we could get materials. And somehow we had to get the money to pay for it if it ever turned up. And we separated for a year and went to earn money. And it was in Christmas Eve, 74, that I was working on a riverboat, and he called me and said he had located a barge that we could afford. You can't separate your own youth from someone else's youth. It was just like anyone who's doing exactly what they want to do, and they're building a life together. It was a wonderful time. We had no idea how to build a house. We just drew one with some crayons. We had only a small paperback book called How to Build Your House in the Woods, and that's what we followed. We had only a hammer and a crowbar, I think. We had to borrow a ladder, and I think we even had to borrow a handsaw. And it was a time of anticipation and excitement and hard work. We would go to bed every night tired, and it would just feel so good. I don't even remember taking time to eat, and it didn't take but 7 months to do it, and it was beautiful to watch it come together. It was massive. When you say you live in a houseboat, people don't expect this large structure. The barge itself was 103 feet long. The porch was 20 by 20. The kitchen was 20 by 20. There were so many windows that there was just enough wall to hold up the roof. And the middle room had the old brick floor, and then the bedroom we painted white with towboat paint. And you could just light one little lamp and it would make the whole room so bright. The bed, like so much of what we did, was purely Calvin's creativity and energy. But it was a space-saving idea that he had. We would pull the bed up in the mornings and tie it off and then let it down at night. And in order to get a little breeze, you would just put your foot up on the rope and just push the rope with your foot, and it would make the bed rock. Anyone that ever slept in it said that it was the most comfortable sleeping. To me, it was the natural way to live. You wake up when the sun comes up. The amount of work I did in a day was not difficult because the time was set by my own body. And I don't think that is as tiring. If it was warm weather, we would jump off the barge and swim to the sandbar, and we would start our day by bathing and washing our hair over there on the sandbar. And then we'd swim back to the barge after we'd made our plans and get started on the day. If it was fishing, we would put whatever gear we needed. If it was net time, we would probably already have the nets out, or if we were putting nets out, we'd load these big hoop nets on the boat and then go out and run the nets or the lines or the crawfish traps. And Calvin usually went to sell fish by himself, and I would stay home and fix something to eat and do housework. And then he would come back and we would eat. The hunters would often give us deer and squirrel. Occasionally a trade from a towboat would give us a chicken. We didn't kill our chickens. We had a year-round growing season. We could grow anything every month of the year. We could grow something. During the winter, we would have salad greens, which we grew actually on the barge in boxes. And in the garden, we would have all of our mustard greens and green onions and collards and turnips and those things. Then later in the summer, we would have tomatoes and peppers and squash and beans. And in the fall, the pumpkins would come in, and we would can just about everything. We even made our own ketchup. And it took me a long time to eat bought ketchup. It tastes so overcooked when you're used to really good homemade ketchup.
And good evening. I'm Martin McConnell. It is my pleasure to present Atchafalaya Houseboat to you tonight. This beautiful documentary was produced by Christina Melton right here at LPB, photographed by our very own Rex Q. Fortenberry, and it was based on the book by Gwen Rowland. You're gonna meet Gwen a little bit later. Her book is The Atchafalaya Houseboat: My Years in the Louisiana Swamp. Now, if you're enjoying this beautifully taped, beautifully edited special, then please, why don't you show your support by calling in a pledge of financial support to LPB. Call 888-769-5000. Come on, you know what that number is. It's toll-free thanks to Answer Quick Answering Service. Do like this person. Call in a substantial gift. If you can't call in, if you can't call 888-769-5000, why don't you go online to lpb.org. It's a secure website. You can get in and out. But if you call right now, you can talk to some of the members of Codafil who are in the studio, dying to talk to you, dying to tell you about all of the wonderful things that we have for you. And if you've been hesitating at all, this is a very special break. Don't hesitate any longer. Hesitate no more. I want to introduce a very, very special guest. This is Chris Gutto. He is chairman of the board of the governing body for LPB. He's Beth Courtney's boss. And Chris, I want you to tell us, welcome, I'm glad to have
Thank
you, and
you.
a pleasure
Good-
to work here with you.
Good to see you, Martin.
Tell us about the corporate challenge that Willis-Knighton Health System
Well,
is doing for us.
Exciting news for all of our viewers who I know are dying to pledge and haven't pledged yet. The Willis-Knighton Health System of Shreveport is challenging all viewers to donate tonight, and they will match dollar for dollar the first $1,500 called in during this break. So basically, all of the viewers who want to pledge now, because your pledge will basically double.
It counts twice. It counts double.
For LPB. So please, call now. We have phones that are available that aren't being answered right now. Please call.
The telephones are ringing, but we have plenty more for you to call, and we have plenty of ways to say thank you. Now we're going to go across the studio. David Spazzali, he's going to tell you all about the great thank you gifts we have for Atchafalaya Houseboat.
Indeed, I will. And for Atchafalaya Houseboat, wonderful film for a $150 contribution or just $12.50 a month, you can obtain the combo autographed book, Atchafalaya Houseboat, by Gwen Rowland, and photographs by C.C. Lockwood, and the program DVD. For $100 or $8.35 a month, you can receive the autographed book, Atchafalaya Houseboat, and for a $75 contribution or $6.25 a month, you can receive the program DVD that you're watching this evening. And again, that special credit card offer of $85, you'll receive the exclusive LPB Louisiana cuff. And I do want to mention once again, this is a challenge break, so it's very important. The Willis-Knighton Health System of Shreveport is challenging all viewers to donate tonight, and they will match dollar for dollar the first $1,500. So this can turn into $3,000 for us very easily. If you call it in during this break, in effect, this will make your donation worth twice as much to LPB. And did you know that you can spread your $100 or $120 a year support out to just $10 a month? As an LPB sustaining member, your monthly contributions automatically come from your checking account or from your debit or credit card. That's right, instead of just giving LPB one lump sum of money, you set up a payment schedule that comes to you every month. Your membership will always be active. You never have to worry about it expiring. It makes supporting LPB easy because your contribution automatically happens from month to month and from year to year until you tell us that you want to stop. You won't have to remember to write another check to LPB and still provide reliable funding for the programs you love. So please, call us now.
Well, thank you, David. And I have a very, very special guest. Remember, I teased you a little while ago, said you were going to meet her. I want you to welcome, this is Gwen Rowland. This is the author of the book. And look, she's autographing one of her books right now. That is one of the great gifts that David just told you about. Here she is. She's autographing the book. We have a copy of the DVD of the program that you're enjoying, Atchafalaya Houseboat. And the DVD, the film, is based upon this book. And here is the author. Thank you so much for being here. We're so excited to get you out of the wilderness and into the studio to tell us about this. How did you and Calvin get started in this endeavor?
Well, I guess you might call it postgraduate work. I had just finished my master's degree at LSU, and our major professor said, don't go right into your PhD work, folks. You need to get out in the world for a couple of years. I didn't want to do it. I'd been in school all my life. I loved school, and I started crying. I said, I'm scared to get out there. And he said, well, you really need to go. And right about that time, I reconnected with Calvin, my old childhood friend and distant cousin. And he had just moved an old house out into the basin to start fishing, and he needed a partner. And I said, well, I'm looking for something to do for the summer. And so I signed on and stayed about 10 years. And, and during that time, our house was flooded in the 1973 flood. And that's when we built the houseboat. And that's what this story is about.
And That probably continued your education as much or more than graduate school did, I guess.
Absolutely. In fact, that's in the book, that this was my real education.
You got your PhD on the houseboat.
That's right. I started learning how to do things I never dreamed I could do.
That's wonderful. And you know, so many people are enjoying this program. We want to especially thank Elizabeth Wegeman from Lafayette. She phoned in earlier and made a very generous pledge of financial support, and that makes her eligible for all of the great thank you gifts. Look at this beautiful copper cuff that's available to you for credit. I know David's going to tell you more about that, but this is the Corporate Challenge Break. Willis Knighton Health System from Shreveport, they are our corporate sponsor tonight, and if you call in this break only, they will match dollar for dollar your pledges up to $1,500. But here's the catch. If you don't call in and make the pledge, they don't make the match. So we really need you to call now, 888-769-5000. We really want to tell you thank you for your support, and I'm going to let David tell you all about that.
Indeed, and I'd first like to thank Martin McConnell from Baton Rouge and Kathy Boeta from Gonzales, Louisiana. Thank you for calling in. Also, our special gifts tonight, $150. You can receive the combo autographed book, Atchafalaya Houseboat by Gwen Rowland, and photographs by C.C. Lockwood, and the program DVD that you're watching this evening. Also, for a $100 contribution, or just $8.35 a month, an autographed book, Atchafalaya Houseboat. Remember, you can break these down into monthly payments. $75, you can get the program DVD. And then the special credit card offer of $85, you'll receive the exclusive LPB Louisiana cuff, which is a spectacular gift. And if you're like me, you do more and more purchases and transactions online. We know our LPB viewers and members are savvy when it comes to budgeting, and that's why the sustaining membership is such an attractive option. It's a lot easier on your budget because it spreads your support throughout the year. Plus, your membership will always be active, so you'll never have to worry about when it's time to renew your support. Best of all, you'll be providing a steady stream of support to LPB, ensuring that programs like Antiques Roadshow, Frontline, Great Performances continue to have a place on the air. It takes just a couple of minutes to set it up. Your sustaining membership will work very well, so just give us a call or head over to your secure website and provide for that sustaining membership. It's easy for you and great for LPB. And I should mention just very quickly the Willis Knighton Health System dollar for dollar match up to $1,500. That'll go to $3,000 for us. Please call now.
And it's this break only. Because when we go back to the film, when we go back to watching the Atchafalaya Houseboat, the deal is off. So you have to call now, 888-769-5000. And what a wonderful time to do so. We have the author, we have the star of the show. Gwen Rowland is here. She wrote the book. She just autographed the book, and she's dying to send it to you. And Gwen, I think you discovered a lot of things out there in the swamp, but one of the most significant things you discovered was C.C. Lockwood.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I guess he discovered us. He claims he was not lost the day that we first saw him, but we were sitting on Peter Bunch's front porch, and this blonde person, all sunburned, came around the bend with two canoes strapped together. And Peter Bunch looked out there and said, "That guy looks crazy. I would not go out there if I were you." But we were so happy to see someone young. We went out and met him, and he was looking for Buffalo Cove. And that's how we met him. He was a good friend of ours for the whole time we were out there.
And so essentially he immortalized your experiences out there until it was time for you to go and write your book. Thank you for whoever did that. Yeah. So tell me, I mean, you had a lot of experiences out there. What were some of your most favorite and least favorite experiences on the houseboat?
The favorite ones are really easy. I could spend the whole evening talking about that. Probably being able to set my schedule myself was the best thing. It was set by the seasons and by the time of the day, and we would, whether it was gardening season or fishing season, whatever kind of fish we were catching, The weather and the seasons set that, and to me that's a very natural way to live, and it's really good for your blood pressure and everything. And
not many of us can say
that's
that
right.
we do that.
Not many people get to do that until you retire these days, but it was great to be able to do that in our 20s. And probably the least favorite thing was boat rides. I did not like boat rides. Calvin loved it, but I didn't like it. And so now where I live now, it's very wilderness where I live now, and I don't have to ride a boat, but I can still do all the things I did in the swamp.
We talked about that earlier, ferrying things back and forth and back and forth, and yeah, it made life difficult, I think. But I'm here to make life easy for you by telling you to call 888-769-5000 and talk to some of the people in the studio audience, in the studio, the Codafil people, because Willis Knighton Health System is our corporate sponsor, and they want to match dollar for dollar your pledge. But if you don't call, they don't get to match it. Call now, and we have ways of saying thank you that David is going to tell you all about.
Indeed, and we want to first of all thank our sponsors answering the phone tonight: Codafil, the food that's been provided by Louis Cafe, Bluebell Creameries, and Baton Rouge Coca-Cola, and our corporate sponsors, Willis Knighton Health Systems, our volunteer camera operators, and remember that you're calling toll-free to one of our great supporters, Answer Quick. We also want to run down those very quickly, the gifts again, $150. You can obtain the combo autographed book, Atchafalaya Houseboat by Gwen Rowland, and photographs by C.C. Lockwood, and the program DVD. Also for $100, the autographed book, Atchafalaya Houseboat, and for $75, the program DVD that you're watching tonight. And then again, that special credit card offer, $85, you'll receive the exclusive LPB Louisiana cuff, which is just a great item. And again, we want to mention that challenge. This is the time to do it. Willis Knighton Health System of Shreveport is challenging all viewers to donate tonight, right now, and they will match dollar for dollar the first $1,500. So please call during this break.
Hey, thank you, David. These are some fantastic gifts that we have for you. And let me tell you about some of the people who are going to enjoy that. Hey, Jim Nickel of Baton Rouge, thank you so much for making your pledge of financial support. And Gwen, I got to tell you this. Your youngest fan, Baron Davis, he's 10 years old. He says he's your youngest fan. He has called in. Maybe you have inspired a new generation. Who knows?
That's what I'd like to do. Thank you very much, Baron.
And we want to inspire you to call. Thanks to the Willis Knighton Health System, our corporate sponsor. They're from Shreveport, but they're down here. They're helping. Well, not down here because LPB is all over. Willis Knighton Health Systems, thank you so much. You do this for us all the time. Call in now. This break only is the corporate challenge break. So, Gwen, when you're looking back on those, what do you think about now when you're looking back on the time that you spent on the houseboat?
Oh, I think about what a wonderful opportunity it was. A time of growth, a time to find out what I could do that I didn't think I could do, a time to get to know myself after being in school all of my life, because I'd been in school since I was 5 years old. So that's what I think about.
Then let's go back to the film and we'll learn some more.
There was nothing that we felt afraid of when we lived in the swamp. People often ask me about dangers, and actually the only things that I can remember that could have been dangerous would have been a cut from the brush hook or a chainsaw accident. Oh, there were snakes and alligators. We could stand on the barge and see 10, 12 at a time. Beautiful big banded water snakes would just lie in the sun all around the barge on the logs, but they're not poisonous. And the only poisonous snakes we had to worry about out there were copperheads and cottonmouths. And the copperheads were so shy, I don't think we saw but one or two the whole time we were there. Being a wilderness situation, there was not a lot we had to go outside for in the wintertime. You know, in Louisiana it starts raining in November. And from what I remember, it rains all the way through until March. If it was wintertime and high water, we would probably have wood to cut, because if the water was level with the ground, it was much easier to load the wood and unload it. We would have the wood stove in the kitchen and the fireplace in the middle room, the library. And I felt like we were plenty warm enough. And then summertime, there were a few nights that it would be so hot that it was difficult to sleep. When I went to the swamp, I didn't want a community. I just wanted it to be Calvin and me, nobody else. But the few people who were out there were accustomed to being a community and being neighborly. In the vast area of the Atchafalaya where we were living, there were 3 single elderly men living in different places and 1 elderly couple. And that was all that lived out there day and night. Alcide Verrett was born in the swamp. He was born, he used to say, in 1900, and he died in 1998, just short of his 99th birthday. He was raised around Bayou Chene and didn't get a chance to go to college, even though he was a very smart man. He was one of the smartest people I ever met. He seemed like such a larger-than-life person, just telling these stories in this booming voice. Alcide was unique in that he would actually cook a banquet every day in hopes somebody would come. And it works. If people find out you cook a banquet every day, you will have company. People would come to visit and eat and just stay for hours. And that's when we heard all kinds of wonderful stories. We had an unusual variety of visitors, people that you just wouldn't have expected to find us. And one of those we just stumbled upon one Sunday afternoon. We were sitting on Peter Bunch's porch, and this very sunburned young man with white blonde hair, he was riding in 2 canoes strapped together to make a boat. And he stood up in the canoes and said, "Which way is Buffalo Cove?" And Peter Bunch said, "That boy's crazy. I wouldn't even go down there if I was you." But we were so happy to see someone our age, and we were so intrigued that we went down there to meet him. And his name was C.C. Lockwood, and he wanted to be a wildlife photographer, capturing the beauty of the basin. And this was something we wanted to hear, because so many times when Calvin and I were fishing in some beautiful place, one of us would turn to the other one and say, "You know, somebody ought to take pictures of this place." After that first visit, he would come every few weeks, maybe every few months, and he would visit with us. And he would tell us what he was doing back in civilization. These announcements from him about the outside world became grander and grander, until finally one day he came and said, "National Geographic is going to pay me to do a story, a photographic story about the Atchafalaya Basin, to catalog life in the basin in the 1970s. The article was about the trouble that the basin was in and the arguments that were going on both sides on the best way to save the basin because it was silting up. They interviewed the Corps of Engineers, fishermen, indigenous people like us. It was met with a lot of enthusiasm. We got mail from as far away as India and California, and there was no mailing address for us in there. People just sent letters and cards to Calvin and Gwen, Atchafalaya Basin. Well, there are so many people interested in what we're doing, so many people were asking questions. I thought, I'll just write my own story and put it in the local newspaper, and that way I can answer everybody's questions at once. After that first article that I wrote, it was as if everything I looked at after that was in story form. Calvin and I talked about it all the time. We would talk about how would we describe what it's like shad dipping, and this particular cove where it was so quiet that you could think you would hear the world turning. That's how quiet that place was. We would talk. We would talk about songs. We would talk about things we'd read. We'd talk about old people, and I wonder how they did this or that in the old days. Things that really, the thinking of it doesn't get you anywhere. The sort of downtime where your brain isn't really busy solving a problem, and you can just wonder. Like with other relationships, we drifted apart. We found ourselves in a situation where we needed money. And I took a job on a towboat to make some money because one of our dogs got injured. And while I was on this boat, I fell in love with the man I would later marry. And after about a year of trying to stay back in the swamp again, I realized I had to leave and marry this other man. And Calvin eventually found love elsewhere too. When I left the swamp, I closed the door on that and just sort of pretended it never happened. I think I'll always be a writer. These days I write about rural life. I live here on a farm in Georgia with my husband Preston, raising chickens and goats, tending my garden's heirloom tomatoes and snap peas. I've helped establish several local farmers markets here. I've had so many wonderful experiences in the years since I left the swamp. From living in the Florida Everglades, to traveling the country making folk dancing documentaries, to editing an international scuba diving magazine. I could never have predicted the path my life has taken. But really, these days, my lifestyle isn't all that different from 30 years ago. There's something reassuring about the turning of the seasons. Spring to summer, summer to autumn, autumn to winter. It's funny how life can circle back on itself. It's been almost 30 years since I've seen Calvin. When our photograph showed up in National Geographic all of a sudden, a lot of people wanted to know whatever happened to us in our houseboat. I'm not sure any of us would have ever gotten in touch again if it hadn't been for that photo. It was just so long ago. Preston and I went back to see Calvin and to meet Kathy and to visit the spot we had lived all those years ago. Yep, this is where we used to live. This is the first place. So our house was right here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let's just run over there and see if we can see anything. It was great to go back out there and see that I really didn't have any effect on it. Was that from where our garden was?
I don't think so. I don't think we were that far over. I don't know.
The basin is turning back into wilderness. And that's the way it should be. It shouldn't remember me. So I guess you'll be coming out here this weekend?
Yeah, if I'm not stuck working.
So many things in our lives change and are altered to where they're not even recognizable. But I think everybody needs some place that's a constant, that will always be the same whenever they go back to it. And for me, that's the basin. Yep.
I forgot about that picture.
Shad dipping right there. Look at Cece as a youngster. It's been so nice to see old friends after such a long time.
When I wasn't sleeping on the porch of your barge, or later in my houseboat, that's how I stayed. I had that orange bag, I had that red eye chest my cameras in.
So this was the first time we saw you.
The worst thing I remember about that is y'all accused me of being lost. I've never been lost in my life.
Wasn't that the day you were asking us where Buffalo Cove?
I still wasn't lost, though.
Do you remember the first time you saw it?
It all blends together, but all I remember, it was such a peaceful boat. Really, one of the nicest homes I've ever been in.
Well, you've managed to hold on to a lot of this kind of life, haven't you?
Yeah. I guess I was just born into it. just part of me.
I didn't want to go back and revisit all that. It was too painful. But now, having gone back in my mind and to reconnect with Calvin and with you, I've come to see just the bigger picture of it, that everything you do in life is going to count. It's going to change you. It's going to make you who you are later on. And nothing's ever wasted. To go to the swamp at that age was a way to truly find out my strengths, what I really was. When I see that young woman today, the things I admire about her that I still admire about the older woman is that her curiosity always outweighed her fear of failure. I know now that it doesn't mean just because I didn't recognize her and she was young, that is still me. That person, that young person, is still on the inside. And I realize now that we take that young person, if we want to, we take them into the rest of our life with us.
This program is brought to you by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and by viewers like you.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Martin McConnell. It has been a pleasure to host this hauntingly beautiful presentation, Atchafalaya Houseboat. I hope that you agree with me that LPB did a wonderful job of taking Gwen Rowland's book about her 8 years spent on the Atchafalaya, and they created this wonderful video representation of her work. And if you do agree, if you do believe that, then this break is your last opportunity tonight to show your support for great storytelling on LPB. And you can do that so easily with a telephone call to 888-769-5000. That's a toll-free number, thanks to our good friends at Answer Quick Answering Service. Or you can go online to lpb.org and look at everything that we have available for you. Select your gift online. But you know what? If you call 888-769-5000, you're going to talk to one of the wonderful people from the Codafil organization who are here in the studio who are waiting to talk to you. You know, your call tonight is going to help to make it possible for LPB to produce the next show specifically about Louisiana. And who knows if that program could come, it could come from the Amite area or from Coushatta or Winsboro, DeRidder. Who knows? Regardless of the location, you know that your pledge is going to help LPB travel and record a program that's going to be of interest to you and to your family. So why not give us a call now? One of the numbers that's on the screen, go to the website that's on your screen. You know that you enjoy these shows. We know that you enjoy these shows because you continue to make a pledge of financial support, and that is what helps LPB to fund this original programming. You won't find it anywhere but right here on LPB, and that is thanks to you and your support. And speaking of thanks, we have someone who's come all the way from Lafayette, David Spazzali. He's in the studio, and he wants to tell you about all of the Lanyap thank you gifts that were specifically chosen for this evening. David.
Thank you. Just flew in on the Learjet from Lafayette, and it was great. I want to thank Janie Humphreys from Ruston, Louisiana for calling in, and also Michelle Greason from West Monroe, Louisiana for calling in. Also, a special thanks again to our volunteers, phone volunteers from Codafil, the food from Louise Cafe, Bluebell Creameries, and Baton Rouge Coca-Cola. Also, the corporate sponsor, Willis Knighton Health Systems, and our volunteer camera operators and everybody that makes it possible here in the studio, and also the toll-free calls being accepted by Answer Quick, one of our major supporters. We also want to mention some of our gifts very quickly. $150 for the combo autographed book, Atchafalaya Houseboat by Gwen Rowland and photos by C.C. Lockwood, and the program DVD. $100 will get you autographed book by the Atchafalaya Houseboat autographed book. And then also for $75, the program DVD, which you're watching right now. Special credit card offer, again, that $85, you'll receive the exclusive LPB Louisiana cuff. So when you pledge to LPB, you may want to take advantage of a great giving option, become a sustaining member. You simply set up your bank account or debit or credit card to make an automatic contribution every month in support of LPB. So choose any amount that works for you, $5, $10, $100, but make it easy on your budget and spread your support for LPB throughout the year. Your membership will always be active. You'll never have to worry about renewing your support. And sustaining members help keep LPB financially strong. So become a member now.
Oh, thank you so much, David. Thank you for all that. Look at the great things that we have available. And let me tell you about some of the people who are going to be enjoying these great gifts. Harry Pankey of Monroe, thank you. Marie Hebert of Jeanerette, thank you. Michael Rose of Crowley, Louisiana, and Rogers Prestridge from Shreveport. You're all going to be enjoying some of the great thank you gifts that we have available for you, like some of the things you see right here, the book, the autographed book, the DVD of the program you're watching. I want to thank my good friend, Mr. William Hotard, for calling in. He always calls in. I hear from him every time that I come on the air here, and Calvin, you finally have heard from Calvin after all these years.
That's right. That was one of the best things about Christina Melton doing this project and making this movie is she brought me back out into the swamp and reunited Calvin and me after all these years. I got married and went off for 30 years, and he had his own life. He was married and had a beautiful daughter. And we went back out in the swamp and reconnected, and now it's great whenever I come to Louisiana to go see Calvin and Kathy and have a visit. One of the best things about the movie is getting to hear his voice again. He has a beautiful voice.
Connecting.
Yeah.
So you spent 8 years on the houseboat in the swamp. What made you leave?
Oh, a riverboat man took my breath away. I think I don't.
Did it for love.
That's right. That's right. One of our dogs was injured, and we were sitting on $200 that would last us the crawfish season. And LSU Vet Clinic swallowed that $200 in one day, and one of us had to get a job. It was winter time, so it made sense for me to get a cooking job. And there was a riverboat engineer that just took my breath away. I tried for a year to go back home, but my chickens didn't sound like music anymore, and the sunset didn't make my heart sing, and eventually we both realized I needed to leave.
But your life has really been a progression ever since. It is. One experience builds upon another, and they just all contribute to all of the new things that come along.
That's right, and we all just keep growing and bringing that young person that's inside us all along the way. We cheat ourselves if we don't.
And you're still writing.
I am.
You're still writing, and I know that we have some books to come.
Right. Yes.
We're going to talk about those books. We're going to talk about what you're doing, your projects coming up. But first, let's go back to David so he can remind us about the wonderful thank you gifts that we have available for you tonight.
Indeed, and you can spread these costs out. For $150 or $12.50 a month, you can receive the combo autographed book, Atchafalaya Houseboat by Gwen Rowland and photos by C.C. Lockwood, and the program DVD that you're watching tonight. For $100 or $8.35 a month, you can receive the autographed book, Atchafalaya Houseboat. For $75 or for $6.25 a month, you can receive the program DVD and the special credit card offer of $85 where you can get that exclusive LPB Louisiana cuff. Now, we've already told you about LPB's easy sustaining member option for making your donation. But here's one of the reasons why it's important to you. Your sustaining membership gives LPB a strong financial base to purchase and produce the programs you've told us you enjoy watching. If you're like me and many of our other LPB members, you rely on LPB more and more for your television viewing. Some folks tell us it's the only station they really watch anymore. Whether you want to be informed about current events, enjoy being entertained with mysteries, British comedies, or depend on the safe haven of the children's lineup, LPB can only do it with your support. Your sustaining membership guarantees a steady stream of income for LPB to provide these shows. So consider this a method of giving, and we promise to continue airing the shows you love and enjoy.
Thanks so much, David. I appreciate your being so thorough with all of that, because the gifts, the thank you gifts are so wonderful. It really takes somebody to tell them all about it, to make everybody really realize just how wonderful these gifts are. This is the book right now that the Atchafalaya Houseboat that the film is based upon, and it's the book's author, Gwen Rowland, is sitting right here beside me. She has autographed this book. She has other books here that she has that she's going to be autographing later this evening, and those books can be yours by making a pledge of financial support. And speaking of books, you're still writing.
That's right, I am. I've been a career writer, and since I retired in 2010, I've been working on a novel set in Bayou Chene in 1907, about 100 years before I lived out there. And it takes a lot of the anecdotes that's in this book and peoples them with real faces and bated breath and petticoats wet and pulling you underwater, that sort of thing.
Well, I don't know what I'm looking forward to, if I'm looking forward to the book or if I'm looking forward to the film that's going to be made from the book. And I'm guessing, let's see, Julia Roberts will play you. But anyway, you just stay tuned to LPB and continue your financial support of LPB. And I promise you, you're going to see more great things from this great lady and from the great people that we have had in the studio tonight. I want to especially thank Phyllis Terrell of Linden, Texas. She called in and made a very generous pledge, and she is eligible for some of the wonderful gifts that we have available for you. And should we go back to David? Let's go back to David. Let's learn some more about those gifts again.
Let's learn some more about those gifts. Once again, $150, the combo autographed book, Atchafalaya Houseboat by Gwen Rowland, and photographs by C.C. Lockwood, and the program DVD that you're watching tonight. That's for a $150 contribution. $100 will give you the autographed book, Atchafalaya Houseboat, and $75 contribution will get the program DVD that you're watching. Special credit card offer of $85. You'll receive the exclusive LPB Louisiana cuff. And this book is wonderful. If anybody is familiar with C.C. Lockwood's photographs and the wonderful production of this book, you'll really appreciate receiving it or giving it as a gift.
And David, boy, do I have some good news for you. This was just handed hot off of the presses, breaking news. We're not scrolling it across the bottom of the screen. I'm here to tell you all about it. During our corporate challenge break, the last break, and remember that was sponsored by Willis Knight and Health System from Shreveport, our corporate sponsor for the evening. They sponsored this great corporate challenge. 19 of you called in. 19. That's wonderful. You made Thank you very much. You made $2,720 in donations to LPB. So when we add that to the $1,500 from the Willis Knight and Health System of Shreveport, we're talking about a grand total of $4,220 that is going to help keep this Atchafalaya Houseboat afloat. So thank you very much. Thank you for that support. Thank you for calling in at 888-769-5000 and speaking to someone from Codafil, because it's when you make those calls, it's when you make that financial support, it's when you make that donation, give that money to LPB, that's what pays for the next program. This one's in the can. This one's on the DVD. We've got that now, but this is going to make future programs available. And also by your calling in, you're continually telling us that these are the types of programs that you want to see, types of programs about the local culture here in Louisiana. And guess what? You're not going to see it anywhere but on LPB. It's commercial free, so you know who pays for it, don't you? You do, by calling 888-769-5000. But we don't take that for granted, because we want to say thank you, and David Spazzali is going to tell you all about it.
Okay, once again, we want to thank our volunteers, Codafil and Louise Cafe, Bluebell Creameries of Baton Rouge, Coca-Cola, the corporate sponsor, Willis Knight and Health System, and our volunteers, camera operators, everybody that makes this possible, and especially Answer Quick. Thanks so much. And again, those gifts are very special. The autographed book, Atchafalaya Houseboat, with Gwen Rowland, and the photographs by C.C. Lockwood. That's $150. $100 or will give you the autographed book, Atchafalaya Houseboat. $75, the program DVD, which you're watching tonight, and a special credit card offer of $85. You'll receive the exclusive LPB Louisiana cuff. So please give us a call right now. We really appreciate your help. And the number is 888-769-5000. So please give us a call right now.
Oh, David, thank you so much. Look, we're talking about the cuff, and I'm here with Gwen Rowland, the author, tonight. Look, this is the cuff. Look, it's beautiful. It has beautiful workmanship on it, and it's got all the cities in Louisiana. Here we go. I'm going to put that right there on you.
There we go.
Isn't that great? Look, and it's only going to improve her writing, folks. She is just going to get so much better. Gwen, we thank you so much for being here. We thank you so much for producing this show and then for coming here and sharing your story with us.
Absolutely my pleasure. It's fun to be 65 years old watching the 58-year-old me talk about the 20-something-year-old me, and my head's spinning.
Okay. Well, it has really been a pleasure for us to learn about your life on the Atchafalaya, and I'm really looking forward to hearing more about your life that's in Georgia now, the novel that you're going to be writing about life on Bayou Shin, a novelized account of the things that really take place there. Yeah. So it really is a pleasure to have Gwen Rowland here. And see, these are the types of people that LPB can attract thanks to your support. And when you call 888-769-5000, you speak to someone in the studio from Codafil. They can't wait to talk to you. Please call now. Make the pledge of financial support. Cast your vote for the Louisiana programming, the special cultural programming that highlights, that encapsulates, that preserves Louisiana culture. It's done for you, by you, thanks to you. Be a friend of LPB.